Getting the movement you need to feel better can be a challenge. Now you can keep fit while you sit with QB, the world's leading compact seated elliptical. QB gives you active sitting, letting you burn calories and keep moving in an easy and low-impact way, all while you work, read, or watch TV. QB was named a top 10 gift by Time magazine and has been featured all over the world. It's whisper quiet while it works your abs and core, hip flexors, glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
Here's your answer to your problem.
I feel young again.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. You'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
To order, call 800-289-5820. That's 800-289-5820. Call now.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French. Now we're going to begin tonight's program by paying tribute to the 10 people killed by a gunman in Boulder, Colorado last night.
Denny Strong, 20 years old. Nevin Studinsky, 23. Ricky Odds, 25. Trelona Barkonoviak, 49. Suzanne Fountain, 59. Terry Leiker, 51. Officer Eric Talley, 51. Kevin Mahoney, 61. Lynn Murray, 62. Jody Waters, 65. Our hearts go out to all the victims killed during this senseless act of violence.
Chief Harold, she went on to speak more about one of the names that she read, namely Officer Eric Talley, killed in the line of duty.
He didn't have to go into policing. He had a profession before this, but he felt a higher calling. And he loved this community. And he's everything that policing deserves and needs.
Officer Talley was one of the first people to run into the King Soopers grocery store after shots were fired by the killer. He died a hero. He leaves behind a wife and 7 children. A suspect now in custody, taken alive but injured. Now he is facing 10 counts of first-degree murder. Police saying it's too early to know why he did it, as investigators are searching for a motive. Many survivors, they're now speaking out about what they saw inside the grocery store last night. I want you to take a listen to one of them.
We couldn't tell exactly where the shooter was. We knew that he was getting closer to us. I tried to run for him, and my son pulled me back and said that we had to get away, and so I just tried to focus on my son. And I told him in between shots, by the 4th shot, I started counting, and I told him we have 3 seconds, stay low and don't look and just move fast. And he almost hesitated, and I just told him we don't have another option.
This obviously has been just yet another mass shooting in this country. And again, we have a president speaking about the senseless of it all. President Biden speaking about the shootings early this afternoon, using this tragedy as yet another call for action.
I don't need to wait another minute, let alone an hour, to take common sense steps that will save the lives in the future, and to urge my colleagues in the House and Senate to act. We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again. I got that done when I was a senator. It passed. It was law for the longest time. And it brought down these mass killings. We should do it again.
Short time before President Biden spoke, his former boss, Barack Obama, issued a statement. I now read a portion of it for you. It is long past time for those with the power to fight this epidemic of gun violence to do so. We can make it harder for those with hate in their hearts to buy weapons of war. We can overcome opposition by cowardly politicians and the pressure of a gun lobby that opposes any limit on the availability of anyone to assemble an arsenal. We can and we must. But will they? I now bring in Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent, to take a look at more of the politics involved. And Andrew, forgive me if the shock and awe is worn off. The dateline may change, the numbers may change. We've seen this before, and frankly, we've seen so much of the tepid response from Washington. Yet again, I heard it this afternoon in D.C.
I've lost track, Rich, of how many times you and I have basically done this show over the years, and particularly in recent years. Now that Democrats control both houses of Congress, they're trying to pass gun control bills that have been languishing in D.C. for years. The House passed 2 bills earlier this month that would expand background checks to nearly every gun sale in America, but that bill faces a tough road in the Senate. It's expected to get little or no Republican support there. And that despite the fact that vast majority of Americans want universal background checks. Latest poll by gun safety groups Everytown and the Gifford Center show that 93% of Americans support background checks for all gun sales. The majority of gun owners and Republicans even support that. Same poll also found 90% support for the notion that the government should, quote, protect Americans from gun violence. 80% support for an extreme risk law to remove guns from the home of someone deemed dangerous, as well as big support for crackdowns against open carry laws and for listing guns as a public health emergency. This debate comes as we're seeing a huge surge in mass shootings in this country, even though they haven't gotten a lot of attention because of the pandemic. But we have seen a decrease in some places, in schools, in workplaces, and in stores, because let's face it, for the better part of the last year, most of those places have sat largely empty. But this chart tells the real story. Check out 2020, and you can see how shootings involving 4 or more victims soared throughout last year. Plus, of course, just last week, a gunman killed 8 people, including 6 Asian American women inside spas in Georgia. Gun violence and what to do about it was the focus of a Senate hearing today that was already on the schedule before the shootings in Atlanta and obviously the one yesterday in Boulder. Predictably, Democrats wanted to do something about guns. Republicans deflected from the issue. Let's start with the Democratic side. Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut.
Inaction has made this horror completely predictable. Inaction by this Congress makes us complicit. Now is the time for action to honor these victims with action, real action. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. And yet, thoughts and prayers is all we have heard from my colleagues on the other side. Thoughts and prayers must lead to action.
On the Republican side, Senators Ted Cruz and John Kennedy dodged the real issue.
What happens in this committee after every mass shooting is Democrats propose taking away guns from law-abiding citizens, because that's their political objective. But what they propose, not only does it not reduce crime, it makes it worse. The jurisdictions in this country with the strictest gun control have among the highest rates of crime and murder. When you disarm law-abiding citizens, you make them more likely to be victims.
We have a lot of drunk drivers in America that kill a lot of people. We ought to try to combat that too. The answer is not to get rid of all sober drivers. When a Muslim jihadist blows up a school full of school children, we are often told not to condemn all of the actions of those of the Muslim faith because of the actions of a few. And I agree with that. So why doesn't the same rule apply to the 100 million plus gun owners in America?
What an idiot. No. To compare what we saw to a drunk driver?
I mean, we test drivers, we license drivers, we require people to get insurance.
You don't even have to do logic to this, okay? Because you can. By this point, you can close your eyes and go through all the litany of reasons why you need a license to go fishing, for Christ's sakes. But you can walk in. Okay, listen, I'll peel the curtain back. Before the show started, we said, okay, who do we want to get as a guest? Do we want to get a lawmaker? Why? At this very table, I had parents who lost 5- and 6-year-old kids at Sandy Hook. I was gutted at the end of every program. And if that wouldn't move the needle in this country, after the tragedy in Newtown, to do something, who are we kidding? I'm going to bring somebody on that's going to tell me something you don't know? Okay. I don't care if the shooter came from a red state or a blue state, if they're Democrat or Republican. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're white. I don't care if they're crazy. I don't care if they're sane. I don't care if they had a criminal record. I don't care if they didn't. I don't care if they're from a rural area or from an inner city or a suburb. I just know that if we, the people, by 90-something% say that we can and should do more than we are, then why aren't we? Andrew, this is more than any other issue, the biggest profile in cowardice. The NRA is basically bankrupt. So that's not what this is about. And by the way, there's a few Democrats who are cowardly too in this. It's not just Republicans who have a monopoly on this. But that we are going to sit here and pretend that we're surprised anymore? My God, we can't even have a background check to get a gun when 93% of Americans want one? Am I missing something here? Again, it's an impossible question to ask you because we've done this so many times. I'm not asking for revelations, but I'm not even sad anymore. I'm just so frustrated.
Yeah, and I fear that we're going to see a spate of this kind of thing happening as COVID restrictions ease back and people start resuming their normal lives. I'm worried where we are for gun safety going forward. You would think this moment would have the ingredients to make something happen. Democrat in the White House, Democrats running the Senate, Democrats running the House. But I share your cynicism.
And just think you're in Colorado right now. You've had a school in Columbine with the imagery of bleeding kids falling out windows. You've had a movie theater where people go to see a film and a guy makes it a shooting gallery. Now you have people going to a supermarket. At what point do you say, this can't be the way I want to live? Now you can't make it all go away, but to suggest in this country, in America, we can't do more? Okay. Now, to make my point that we've been down this road before, I am not going to make this easy and just go away to the next topic. When we come back, these mass shootings, they're all too familiar and all too common in this country because they are. We're going to show you how president after president has reacted to this when confronted with this tragedy that we have seen time and time again, but yet we find ourselves today exactly where we began.
IRS, open up.
The IRS is the most feared agency in the country and has the power to seize assets, garnish wages, and even put you in jail for back taxes and unfiled tax returns. Don't be a victim. Call Kick IRS right now and let us kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all. Our powerful team of tax experts will fight hard for you and will not stop until we've resolved your tax problems on your terms. And if you qualify, we may even reduce or eliminate your tax debt altogether. No more sleepless nights wondering when the IRS is going to come after you. Take control of your tax problems today and make the phone call. We have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we offer a 100% written guarantee, so there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. The consultation is free and the phone call is free. So pick up the phone right now and kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all.
Call 1-800-284-0468 to get the tax help you need today. Again, that's 1-800-284-0468 or go to kickirs.net.
This is important news for people who have taken Zantac or its generic ranitidine and then suffered from cancer. Zantac and generic ranitidine have been linked to cancers such as bladder cancer and kidney cancer. According to the FDA, Zantac and ranitidine contain NDMA, a known cancer-causing agent. NDMA has been linked to cancers of the bladder, kidney, colon, esophagus, liver, ovaries, pancreas, and other cancers. If you or a loved one took Zantac or ranitidine and were then diagnosed with cancer, call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one took Zantac or generic ranitidine and were then diagnosed with bladder cancer, kidney cancer, or any of these cancers. Call now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing by.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Welcome back. In the last segment, we heard from President Biden mourning the latest senseless loss of life from an American mass shooting. He has now joined an exclusive and unendingly sad club, American presidents as griever-in-chief after yet another mass shooting. I bring back Andrew with more.
Rich, I watched a lot of these speeches from the last several years. There's some things that they all have in common. The president issues sympathy. He says the details aren't all in yet, and we'll do whatever we can to support the investigation. And in most cases, we get something like this from then President Bill Clinton.
Perhaps now America would wake up to the dimensions of this challenge if it could happen in a place like Littleton, and we could prevent anything like this from happening again. We pray that she is right.
That sadness in his voice, you'll hear it a lot in this segment as we fast forward now to 2007 and the aftermath of the Virginia Tech shooting.
Schools should be places of safety and sanctuary and learning. When that sanctuary is violated, the impact is felt in every American classroom and every American community.
It wasn't only a few years after that we got to the incident that Rich was mentioning in the last segment, Sandy Hook, and the response from President Obama.
The majority of those who died today were children. Beautiful little kids between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. They had their entire lives ahead of them.
He would later say, President Obama, that was the most difficult day of his presidency. In closing, I wanted to take you, we could have picked any of dozens of incidents that happened, but I wanted to take you to Charleston in 2015 in the aftermath. And again, President Obama searching for answers, but also searching for solutions yet again in vain.
There is something particularly heartbreaking about a death happening in a place in which we seek solace and we seek peace, in a place of worship. But let's be clear. At some point, we as a country will have to reckon with the fact that this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries. It doesn't happen in other places with this kind of frequency.
I said that most presidents say these kinds of things. President Trump, however, after mass shootings throughout his presidency, would just avoid the spotlight, Rich.
It speaks volumes to him, but Andrew,
it does.
There are some things that are hard to bring a country along for. The country wants something here. Maybe they don't want all the same thing, but they want something. Something. And what are we getting? Shameful. And I'm sorry, this does fall mostly along party lines. They need to do better than they have. Unbelievable. We'll talk a lot more about this, of course, in the coming days as more of the facts come out, and more of them are more frustrating the more we learn how this could have been prevented. But when we come back, Republicans, they've got a Trump problem, but Democrats, they got concerns of their own. As President Biden goes big, moderates are getting worried. After the break, A.B. Stoddard, she'll join us to discuss.
Here's an important message from the Diabetes Solution Center. Diabetics understand all too well the pain of pricking your fingers. But now, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can immediately reduce your pain. It's easy to use and helps you make more accurate diabetes treatment decisions. If you are testing your blood sugar 4 or more times daily, injecting insulin 3 or more times daily, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetes Solution Center right now to learn about this groundbreaking new CGM technology. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurance company for you. If you are testing your blood sugar 4 or more times daily, injecting insulin 3 or more times daily, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetes Solution Center right now to learn how you can get your own continuous glucose monitor or CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Electricity rates are high and power outages are happening more frequently. Now there's a solution that will help you power your home, save money, and prepare for power outages. Introducing the Power Cell, a fully integrated solar plus battery storage system from Generac, the #1 manufacturer of standby power products in the world.
The battery storage solution in combination with the solar has been one of the best investments we've ever made.
Power Cell captures and stores energy from solar panels, which can be used to power your home anytime. And during a power outage, the Power Cell will automatically send power to appliances that need it the most, allowing you to power more than just the essentials, so you can stay comfortable and safe in your home. And best of all, your electric bill goes down and you save money.
With the battery storage solution, we're saving about $450 a month.
With more than 60 years of experience building backup power solutions, it's clear why the Power Cell outshines the competition, offering more storage capacity and overall power. In fact, the Power Cell has one of the largest storage capacities on the market today, which means you can power even more. And Power Cell is customizable, allowing you to expand your solar storage capacity as your energy needs grow. The Generac Power Cell is backed by a 10-year limited warranty and supported by a 24/7 customer support team.
It was a simple installation, very neatly installed. It was done very quickly and efficiently.
Zero down financing is available with low monthly payment options. With federal tax credits and local energy rebates, you could save up to 26% off your purchase, adding to the savings you'll enjoy over time with Power Cell. Call or go online now to request a free quote. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation to buy. Power Cell is available now and ready to install. And if you act now, you'll receive PowerView, Generac's home energy monitoring system, a $300 value. Don't wait. Call or go online now. Power Cell. Savings powered by the sun.
I'm giving endorsements, and I'm endorsing people that have been good for us and good for the Republican Party and that have voted our way. I'm endorsing some people that I think have been very good, and they're all going to win, and they're going to win big.
Trump, as you can see there, he ain't going away. Besides trying to play kingmaker in races across this country, he's also talking about launching his own social media platform after he was booted from Twitter and Facebook for inciting violence on those same feeds. Trump, he's trying to get revenge on elected officials who dared cross him and not support his big lie about election fraud. He's starting where else but in Georgia, endorsing Congressman Jody Hice to run in the GOP primary for Secretary of State against incumbent Republican Brad Raffensperger. You may remember that Trump, he was caught on tape calling for, magically, Raffensperger to come up with just enough votes to overturn the results. Raffensperger refused to be bullied in for the consequences. He's now being primaried. The whole mess, I should mention, is the focus of one of many criminal investigations. Another guy who Trump is sure to support, Alabama Congressman Mo Brooks.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass. So I have a question for you. Will you fight for America?
We remember how that turned out. Brooks, he was a part of the Stop the Steal lie. He's just announced he's running for U.S. Senate and still spreading lies about the election being stolen from Trump in the process. But it's not just the grand old party that's dealing with some fissures. President Biden, as he continues to push his progressive agenda, starting with a massive stimulus plan and now talk of a huge infrastructure package we'll get to later on in the hour, some moderates get nervous that he may be tacking too far left. My next guest, she's written about both parties. Her most recent pieces with the headlines, The Big Lie, Trump's Litmus Test for 2022, and also Biden's Got Problems. Is Chuck Schumer one of them? Let's bring in AB Stoddard right now. AB is the associate editor of Real Clear Politics, kind enough to give us a few minutes. So, no real headlines, AB, that obviously the president threatening to play kingmaker. The question I have is, privately, do Republicans just pray that by 2022 he's so neutered or marginalized that it won't matter? Or do they believe that he's the present and future of the party still?
Well, whether they believe it or not, they have to act like they believe it. So while they secretly hope for indictments, a lot of them are making trips to Mar-a-Lago, holding fundraisers at Mar-a-Lago to line his pockets, seeking his endorsement, and of course, currying his favor by championing the big lie, continuing to lie about the election, to lie about voter suppression, and to challenge incumbents who did their job, like Brad Raffensperger, who you mentioned. So he is seeking to undermine anyone he believes stood in his way. And there are others that are supporting that. I saw yesterday a state rep in Georgia, Vernon Jones, a Republican, is looking to challenge Brian Kemp, the governor, who is in the crosshairs of President Trump, of course, for also refusing to overturn the election in Georgia like Raffensperger. And Vernon Jones says, if not for our governor, Brian Kemp, that Donald Trump would still be president. So we're looking at a whole pool of people who are not only trying to keep him kingmaker and act like he is the nominee and waiting for 2024 and continuing to perpetuate the big lie, but are running as people who have to get into office to make sure that he wins the next election, or Republicans do, because the ones in their party who stood up for the truth in 2020 must go. So it's incredible where you think we have come from January 6th, let alone November 3rd, when the president lost. The millions he's raised, the energy he's continued to stir up and galvanize, and how far people are willing to publicly sort of corrupt themselves in service to Donald Trump's leadership in the party.
Okay, so I get the roles everybody plays in this kabuki dance that they're doing right now for all the reasons we said, but I still can't figure out, Mitch McConnell, whatever somebody says, the man can count better than anybody in Washington. Why AB did, after making the vote that he did on impeachment, not joining, the other Republicans in the Senate who did, why did he then deliver that scathing speech about Trump and even saying, hey, you criminal prosecutors want to have Adam, you have my blessing in effect? Why go there and make an enemy of Trump when he's got 5 vulnerable Republican seats with resignations or people saying they're done with politics that he's going to have to fight? I just don't understand the move he made, because I don't see the end game to it.
Right. Well, Mitch McConnell is, we assume, in the last term of his career. He just won re-election handily and has 6 years ahead. I think he's 77 or 78. He's conflicted. He's torn because he's an institutionalist and believes so strongly. If you hearken back to the speech he started to give on January 6th before the insurrection, he was talking about efforts to decertify the Electoral College. The certified Electoral College results were so wrong, and that it would come back to hurt Republicans. And of course, within hours, the Capitol was under attack. So he's very opposed to what President Trump has done, the illiberal and corrupt acts he has taken, things he has said to undermine our democracy. But he voted with the people voting to acquit President Trump because he wanted to remain majority leader. He's the only person not going to Mar-a-Lago in leadership of the Republican Party. He is the only person not remaining a fanboy of President Trump. So this is a challenge to him going forward. He says he's not going to get involved in those primary elections, but he will if he has to. He said if he thinks that the candidate is someone who's going to lose to a Democrat statewide. So there's definitely some rocky times ahead, but he seemed to be trying to stand on some principle. And again, what I think is, the last term of his career, he's finally done with President Trump. And I do believe he's one of the Republicans who does hope that he gets indicted and is out of the political landscape in short order.
to the Democrats. Who right now is more concerned? The progressives that they're not getting enough of what they want, or the moderates who say, listen, this may not be that safe if I vote this way in West Virginia or in Arizona, but nationally, the public likes this. You look at the polling, even for infrastructure, if it comes out, just like we saw with stimulus, the public seems to like this right now. Who's going to have a harder time saying no to Chuck Schumer when it comes to casting the vote?
Well, I don't think that Joe Manchin of West Virginia is having a hard time running the Senate and, frankly, running the Biden presidency. I knew he'd be with him on COVID relief, and so would all the Democrats. It was the first thing out after he was inaugurated. It was the most important, related to the pandemic and the economy, and they were going to come around. After that, all of these liberal wish list items that are piling up with all this pressure to undo the legislative filibuster in the Senate are really not so popular. And the majority leader, Chuck Schumer, is going around trying to appeal to progressives because he's trying to win his own primary next year and doesn't want a challenge from the left. So he's saying we're going to change America in a big, bold way, where the political practitioners in the party at the DNC and other, where within the White House, know that America doesn't want to be changed in a big, bold way, and that President Biden almost lost this election to President Trump, and that it only will take 5 seats for the Republicans to take the majority back in the House next year, and 1 Senate seat pickup for the Republicans to take back the majority next year in the Senate. And so their margins are beyond thin. Their situation is very precarious next year, when traditionally a party controlling Washington, 2 branches of government, and in the first year of a presidency suffers losses in the midterm election. So I think that, there's a lot of talk to try to please and assuage progressives, a lot of votes in the House, a lot of press conferences and hearings and proposals of new bills and nominations that are targeting their interests and their priorities. But I don't know that you can pass another $3 trillion package that the Republicans will paint as just another Green New Deal and a tax hike and be sure of your position going into the midterms. I think COVID relief will prove popular, but after that, the party faces some serious divisions about what is politically hazardous and what progressives think the country really want. And I do think that if they, I think we're in a time here where we don't know who's going to win until and unless President Biden weighs in on abolishing the filibuster. And if he does that, again, I think that's a huge political risk for the midterm elections as well.
Really interesting dynamics. Amy Stoddard, as always, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, our bridges, they're crumbling, roads a mess, trains, airports, not much better. Joe Biden, he's trying to do something about it, but it's going to cost a lot. Mitch McConnell saying no. Before Biden's plan even gets off the ground, a hard stop from the GOP.
Is your bathroom looking old and worn out? Want to update it, but you don't know where to start? Then let BCI Bath & Shower show you how to turn that old bath into an aisle of beauty and functionality. Our residential bathroom solutions provide the best value on the market, and our customer service is second to none. Our cost-effective BCI Bath & Shower family of products has what you need.
Remodeling our bathroom was a big decision for us.
They didn't make a mess out of our house at all. And at the end of the day, we had a beautiful new bathroom. And it was a great experience the whole way through.
We have the best monthly payment programs in the industry, with payments as low as $68 per month or no interest, no payments for 18 months. For a limited time, be one of the first 100 callers who schedule a free in-home consultation and receive $500 off.
1-800-857-8541. That's 1-800-857-8541.
Factory trained and certified installers made in the USA, and discounts for seniors and military. BCI Bath & Shower, the leader in affordable bath.
If something happened to you, what would happen to them? Their home, their education, their future. You need life insurance, and chances are SelectQuote can help you get it for less than $1 a day.
SelectQuote found Jacob 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates.
We found Gary, 35, a $1 million policy for only $22 a month.
Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
Call 800-717-7198 or go to selectquote.com now and get the insurance your family needs.
At a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
At Wounded Warrior Project, while we all deal with the effects of COVID-19, our greatest concern is for the health and safety of our nation's wounded heroes, especially those who are at increased risk due to their service to our nation and those who are even now more isolated. We are connecting with warriors and families by adapting our free life-changing programs, including increased phone and video support and online services. The need has never been greater, and we've never been more committed. Please support warriors today.
I think the Trojan horse will be called infrastructure, but inside the Trojan horse will be all the tax increases that Senator Scott and others have been talking about. My suspicion is they will try to jam everything they can into that bill and call it an infrastructure bill. I don't think there's going to be any enthusiasm on our side for a tax increase.
Mitch McConnell there focusing on the negatives instead of talking about the desperate need we have in this country to fix our decaying roads, bridges, trains. He's also ignoring the massive amount of jobs that would be created. Also, we've done this before in America and it's worked. FDR, he put hundreds of thousands of people to work as the New Deal built tens of thousands of bridges, hundreds of airports, 650,000 miles of roads, and too many other things to mention in this windup. President Eisenhower, I'll remind you, a Republican, he did a lot of the same things. Ike put through tens of billions of dollars in spending in 1950 dollars to create the interstate highway system that helped connect the country, and he hiked taxes to pay for it. And it created jobs, a network of highways using still to this very day. And speaking of today, President Biden's economic team, they're working on a $3 trillion package to boost the economy, and that package heavy on infrastructure spending. The details, they're still being hammered out, but it's looking like it would be funded with increases in corporate tax rates, also higher taxes on people in the top income bracket. Now, it includes about $1 trillion to go to roads, bridges, rail lines, ports, charging stations for electric cars, upgrades to the electrical grid. Package would also expand 5G telecommunications as well as broadband access, and it would also extend some of the measures in the stimulus bill, like increased subsidies for health insurance, tax credits for child care. But the clear focus, it is on infrastructure, which, don't take my word for it, is in terrible shape in this country. The American Society of Civil Engineers, they just issued a report card, and the grades aren't good. Airports got a D+, bridges a C, energy a C-, roads got a D. You get the picture here. I want to bring in our guest to discuss. Asha Weinstein-Agrawal, she's a professor of urban and regional planning at San Jose State University. Also, she's director of the Minetta Transportation Institute. She's kind enough to give us a few minutes. First off, this isn't just to spend something just for the sake of it. We need this in this country, don't we?
Yes. We have a backlog of deferred maintenance in our roads and public transit, which is one of the key needs. It's a little bit like maintaining a house, which many of your listeners may be more familiar with, whereas if you don't fix those leaky bits in the roof and such, then suddenly you can end up needing to build a whole new roof instead of the less expensive fixes. And we are at that stage where unless we spend money now to make pretty substantial improvements to maintenance and rehabilitation, we will have a much bigger repair bill down the road. And that doesn't even count on the improvements many people would like to see.
Yeah, I remember when there was a bridge collapse in Minnesota, and there started to be, really on state levels, people doing assessments on the state of bridges. There was a huge fight in New York to build the Tappan Zee Bridge, renamed the Marion Cuomo Bridge, and the structural engineers, they were saying it's when, not if, this thing may go here. In terms of, we gave the grades here, but more broadly, they've lived their shelf lives. So a lot of these major bridges and roadways we've seen in this country, in many ways, this is overdue.
Yes, and as you mentioned in your opening remarks, President Eisenhower sort of kicked in a major gas tax increase and the building of the interstate highway system. And so then sort of in the 60s and 70s, a lot of our major infrastructure was built, and that's 50 years ago now. So a lot of it is really coming due for some major work.
Now, in terms of obviously safety, security, and now the new technology portion of this, you know, electrical car charging stations across this country. So it's not just Tesla, but other manufacturers theoretically getting us away, you know, and more to renewable energies to get around. But also talk about the importance of, you know, basically increasing the bandwidth of this country in certain portions of this country that maybe my listeners aren't in right now that are in death valleys when it comes to interconnectivity.
Yes, so there's a great deal of need, which I think the COVID pandemic has shown for better, you know, broadband and wireless access, which has really become essential to function, sort of basic functioning as a resident in our cities, or not just cities, in our country.
A lot of people get jobs out of this, right? Isn't that one of the attendant benefits, is that, you know, you put people back to work, and obviously after the last year that we've had, that I would think is welcome news, and this isn't just a blue state or a red state play. You know, this is across the country, and usually it's the people who need the work the most that are actually going to be the ones putting shovels into ground.
Yes, so two pieces, I think, to what you're asking. First of all, the impact on jobs. And the last time the federal government raised the gasoline tax, by the way of fact, only 3% of Americans know, based on some research I've done, is 1993. And at that time, when that last increase was passed, it was described as jobs, jobs, jobs. Obviously, there was a key transportation, you know, policy objective behind it, but one of the key selling points was that it would create a whole lot of jobs. So that's one piece, and that's, you know, that's the same today. And for the most part, these are likely to be jobs that benefit the entire country. Since infrastructure is everywhere, you know, we're not just going to be focusing those resources in a few privileged areas. So that's one reason why I think this can be very helpful as an economic stimulus, as well as improving our infrastructure. Now, the other piece of what you asked me related to sort of partisan politics. And for decades and decades, transportation was seen as nonpartisan. And sort of the phrase you would hear is, well, they're not really Democratic roads and Republican roads, they're just roads. And to some extent, that is true, although that has, I think for the public, that's often still true, but we do see our elected officials more and more bringing transportation into the kind of larger partisan debates and divides over raising taxes, government spending, and such.
Yeah, and that brings me to my last question, which is the price tag. And we just played the soundbite with Senator McConnell saying, well, this is a cash grab. But at least how it's being proposed right now, it will be restoring the corporate tax rate to levels it was before already, and taxes to the top income bracket, which have seen major cuts in the last 4 years, they be the ones basically that will be footing a large part of this bill. We're not going back to, speaking of Eisenhower, confiscatory tax rates here. We're talking about, historically at least, reasonable levels to pay for something we need.
And so there, again, I think there are a couple of interesting angles to the point you're making. So one is, who would be paying this? And would that cost burden fall on sort of a portion of our population and our economy that could handle it? And as you've pointed out, in the past, we've had these kinds of tax rates, and you know, the economy didn't crash. The other thing, though, that I would like to chat about for a minute is the fact that I think the American public very strongly supports this kind of government expenditure, and in fact is even willing to some extent to pay themselves if necessary. And I've been doing a series of public opinion surveys now for 11 years, funded by the Minetta Transportation Institute, asking asking a sample of Americans whether they would support raising the federal gas tax rate or potentially adding on a new mileage fee. And I don't know of many taxes that have even majority support these days. But in our most recent survey just from a year ago, we had 3/4 of our respondents said that they would support raising the federal gas tax rate by 10 cents per gallon if the money were dedicated to maintenance and rehabilitation of the transportation system. And now, one survey is only that, it's one survey. But again, that is a remarkable proportion of people supporting this goal of better infrastructure maintenance. And we saw, the support varied somewhat from, part of the country to other part or people's personal characteristics. But for example, even among Republicans, a majority did support that concept.
Interesting. Asha, I appreciate a few minutes today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And up next, whenever we see a crisis, we can count on our friends on the far right to do, well, the wrong thing. Even though Trump is gone, at least in presence, it has not slowed down a bit. After the break, we're going to show you why they're so right, they're wrong.
When you fall and can't get help, you will lie on the floor for hours or days in constant, terrible anguish, which often results in a tragic outcome. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, whether at home,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
in the bathroom,
I've fallen in a shower.
or on the go.
Help! I'm in the park and I can't get up.
And batteries never need charging. Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-215-6582. That's 1-800-215-6582. Call now. 1-800-215-6582.
Mary and Shirley both need oxygen. Shirley lost her freedom the day she went on oxygen, but Mary has the ultra-compact Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator from Inogen. It's the smallest and lightest model we've ever made. Shirley is forced to miss out on everyday activities. Mary fully enjoys her life. Shirley has to wait for tank deliveries and worries about running out of oxygen. But Mary's Inogen 1 G4 makes its own oxygen, so she'll always have the oxygen she needs anytime, anywhere. Shirley finally listened to Mary and now has more freedom too. It's time for you to reclaim your freedom and independence with the Inogen 1 G4. Act now to start your 30-day risk-free trial. This is a limited time offer, so don't wait and don't accept substitutions. The sooner you call, the sooner you can say goodbye to heavy oxygen tanks for good and reclaim the freedom and independence you deserve. Call now for your 30-day risk-free trial.
Call 800-462-8146. That's 800-462-8146.
This is important news for people who took certain drugs for HIV and then suffered serious injury to their kidneys or bones. If you or a loved one took Truvada, Viriad, Atroplus, Stribild, or Complera and were then diagnosed with kidney disease, kidney failure, bone fractures, bone density loss, or softening of the bones, call Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing by.
Whether talking about China, the Chi-Coms, the Chinese Communist Party, whatever phrasing we want to use, and if some people are saying, hey, we think those guys are the bad guys, for whatever reason. And let me just say clearly, I do. I think the Chinese Communist Party running the country of China, I think they're the bad guys.
The bad guys. We call this segment So Right, They're Wrong. You just heard from Texas Congressman Chip Roy. He is defending his anti-China rhetoric and doing so during a House hearing when the subject was discrimination against Asian Americans. And it gets worse. That hearing, it was held just days after 6 Asian American women were gunned down in Georgia. But it's just part of what the party of Trump seems to be doing these days. After all, the Donald Trump himself, Don went on Fox News the night of the shootings and again called COVID the China virus, the day of the shootings, just one of many recent examples of the GOP hypocrisy when it comes to dealing with tragedy, and it often looks like deadly political opportunism. And for more, I want to bring Andrew back into the conversation.
Rich, our next example is at the border. The GOP and their media partners think they have a political winner at the southern border right now. So they're injecting the border into every show and almost every segment they can, including Tucker Carlson, who apparently has just discovered kids in cages.
Nor is anyone in Washington yelling about kids in cages anymore. Remember kids in cages? For a long time, it was all they could talk about.
And Tucker followed that with clips of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris denouncing kids in cages during the 2020 campaign. But Tucker never addressed his selective amnesia about kids in cages during the Trump administration when he defended the policy and, of course, blamed it on Democratic administrations. But today, just bad, and according to Tucker, bad on Biden. But at least Tucker showed a thin veneer of decency in that conversation, which, of course, feels like the setup for a Judge Jeanine clip.
What we're doing here is we are promoting a lower level of human being who will be controlled from other countries. So stop trying to make this about this is not who we are. This is about crime coming into this country.
Lower level of human being, and this is about crime coming into this country. That woman, by the way, used to be a district attorney. She used to prosecute actual crime and actual criminals, so she certainly knows better. And then we get to the mass shooting in Boulder yesterday. 10 people were killed. It's prompted the usual thoughts and prayers responses, including from Lauren Boebert, the freshman congresswoman from Western Colorado. She offered her prayers and said shootings are never okay, and she glorified the fallen officer, asking God for comfort and healing. But not a peep from Boebert about the guns, because guns are her entire political identity. Boebert was one of the members who refused to go through a metal detector before entering the House chambers in the wake of the Capitol riot. She called putting up a metal detector a stunt. Then at a virtual House hearing on that metal detector policy, Boebert broadcast from her home with, you see it right behind her, her personal arsenal on display in her backdrop. Boebert first gained notoriety from her restaurant called Shooter's Grill, where all the staff is armed and customers are encouraged to pack heat while dining in. And of course, 2 hours after the shooting in Boulder began, Boebert sent out a fundraising email based on her opposition to gun control. Bad enough that Boebert seems to care more about representing all the guns in her district than she does about the lives of her human constituency. But Rich, she also has really, really bad timing, and I wonder a sense of decency in all of this, too.
You know, we played a clip last night. We've played it many times in the last few days. Senator Ron Johnson saying the riot and the people that rioted, they weren't there to hurt anyone. They were just God-fearing Americans. He'd be much more worried if they were Black Lives Matter. Now, obviously, the direct through line is that's out and out racist, and it is. But this constant thing, don't believe your lying eyes. We all saw what they did to the cops that day. We played the harrowing sound last night. And we can have debates about ideas in this country, and there's a lot of things that you can have debates about, social issues where our priority should be, but to debate the idea that guns had nothing to do with what happened in the state of Colorado, where you had Aurora and Columbine, and now you had what happened yesterday, it's just morally offensive because they know better and they're lying, and they know they're lying.
Well, and the statements on all of these topics, and Ron Johnson as well, they're not aimed at you or me. They're not aimed at undecided people out there who are trying to weigh both sides of any particular issue. They're aimed at Republicans and supporters of those issues to try to give them a little reassurance that there are some intellectuals or people in positions of power who agree with you on this position, and so you're not wrong to have this wrong position. You're just misunderstood and you're being slighted by everybody else. It's a moral boost and a morale boost to the people who are already in that camp.
But I'm glad you brought up Jeanine Pirro, okay? And for those outside of the New York metropolitan area, you may not know, Andrew mentioned it, Jeanine Pirro used to be a district attorney. She, by the way, ran for U.S. Senate. She was the one who was missing that page when she ran in her failed bid against Hillary. But the point is, as a district attorney, she knew the law, and she had to prosecute people. Our friend, Mayor Bartlett, who you had on last week, ran her bias crimes division. She now says on camera that people coming from south of the border are a lower form of human being By the way, her husband was prosecuted and went away to jail for crimes, but we'll leave that aside here since we're trying to prosecute criminals. The point is, they know better. And for them to not just lie, but knowingly lie and pander in the process, they're insulting their fans' intelligence. That's what bothers me. It's one thing if they're just an idiot and don't know any better. They know better.
And it's not even that they're not being penalized for the lies that they're telling. They're being rewarded for them. Jeanine Pirro, nice, rich contract with Fox News. Hey, talking about Jeanine Pirro makes me think of Sidney Powell, the attorney who was fighting to overturn Trump's election. She actually filed something in court today that said, yeah, the public knows that I wasn't being serious or that you couldn't believe anything that I was saying because lawyers can lie outside a courtroom and not face penalties for it. And in fact, they'll be rewarded for it when the politics line up. But you can't say it in court or you get in trouble.
Just that point, Andrew? What Powell lied about was that the election was stolen from Trump.
Right.
She's now being sued for billions of dollars. And she said, well, of course I wasn't serious. Trump is still promoting it, and his Republican supporters, including the talking heads, are still saying it was stolen, was the election, even when the attorney admits it was all a farce. All right, thank you, Andrew. We come back, we wrap things up.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to a federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home. Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD, Clear TV is for real.
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere. And just growing up the way I grew up and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Sean talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.
Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. As always, everyone, thank you for being such a big part of the program. We'll see you here Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time for another RFL. I hope to see you then.
Attention, if you've had a hernia